We're going to be talking in this video about the actual creation process. And so this video will cut a little bit between in-person views of the machine and here on the screen. I feel ready to make this card. I like how it looks. So we're going to come over here and hit make. And one of the things that you do need to make sure of when you hit make is that this icon is set to venture. It should be set to venture by default, but occasionally it'll jump to one of these other ones. And if it's not set to venture when you hit make, your project will not make it over to the machine. So you do need to make sure this is set to venture. And then when we're ready, we're going to go ahead and hit make. And like we talked about in the previous video, the Cricut automatically separates things into different loads by color. So you can see here on our dog, I have about 8 different material loads, and I would need to load those one at a time. There are 2 ways that the Cricut can run a cut, either on mat or without mat. The only things that it can run without mat are Cricut Smart Vinyl rolls. We'll show those in just a second, but those are larger rolls of material that you could go purchase. Anything else, either smaller pieces of vinyl, paper, cardstock, any other material, would need to go on mat. So you can change that right up here under material load type. And if we set it to on mat, it's going to give us a couple more choices. It's going to ask us our mat size. The 2 sizes the library provides are 24 by 12 or 24 by 28. 24 by 12 is going to be the smaller mats. 24 by 28 is going to be the larger size mat. You can use either or a combination. So if I want to put the black ones on the 24 by 12, and then this next set, these sort of orangey ones on the 24 by 28, I could do so. So that's a way you can sort of preload a couple loads in advance. But you do have to set the settings for each individual load. So I would need to go through and set all of these to be on or off mat. If I wasn't particularly picky and I wanted both step 1 and 2 to be the same shade of black, if I'm going to cut them out of the same material, I could go back to my color sync panel here and make sure that they match. So if I take this one and drag it into this load, now when we hit make, I only have 1 load of black material, so it has combined those. But every time I do hit cancel and come back in, it will reset my settings, so I would need to set this again to be on mat. If I wanted to make multiple of these cards, if I wanted to make 3 different cards for 3 different people, I could set that up here. And you'll notice that when I hit apply, it's going to reset it so that I end up with 3 sets in each cut. So if I set this to on mat, we can see that I've got 3 sets of feet, 3, I believe, noses, and 3 body pieces. And that will apply to each load. Once I have all of my settings the way I'd like them to, we would go on to loading the mat. All right, so we're going to be talking about loading and unloading mats here. So to start off, we have 2 mat sizes. This is the 24 by 28. This is the 12 by 24. You can use either mat with the Cricut. You'll just need to make sure you set the right mat size on the cut step on the laptop. We're going to be using the 12 by 24 for this. When you start out, you will notice that the mat is covered by this plastic cover. We will just peel that off. And it shouldn't take a whole lot, so don't feel like you need to be trying to rip it or anything like that. You just grab a corner and sort of pull. And we have that plastic cover because the mats are sticky. And so when you are finished, we are going to ask that you put the plastic cover back on to help the mats not become dirty. The mats are sticky because all you have to do is place your material right on the mat and then give it a gentle press, just like so. And then what should happen is we can hold it up, and I can even shake it upside down a little bit. And this is just paper, so it doesn't have a whole lot of weight. If you try that with poster board or something a little heavier, you may be more likely to see it fall off. But if the mats are nice and sticky, they should hold on just fine. You do want to make sure that where you place your material matches up with where you've placed it in design space. So you can see here on the mat there is this grid that exactly matches the grid that should be set up in design space. And so if you have your design starting here at 0 and going to 7, you just want to make sure that 0 to 7 is covered with your material. If you've placed your design way over here at 20, you want to make sure 20 is covered with material. And that may mean that you need a couple different sheets of paper, or if you're doing vinyl going on the mat, you just want to make sure that that is covered. So you only want to do something like this, going all the way across, or you'll want to make sure that you have trimmed your material down to size if it proves to be too long. You can always do vinyl on a mat. Any material can go through on the mat, but if you have any material that is labeled smart, like this, it can go here on the back, sitting on these roller trays right here. All right, if you have smart vinyl, it tends to come in a roll just like this, as opposed to maybe the flat sheets you might see otherwise. And so what you can do with that is the roll sits here, and then it gets fed up through the top like this, and we'll talk more about the actual process of loading that in the next video. But if you have either small or large, because you can get rolls that run this entire length, they just sit right here instead of being loaded on the mat. Everything else will go on the mats just like this. And then once I've got my first mat loaded and ready to go, we can hit continue.